Wait, isn't everybody at war over atheism?
Atheism? No, we've learned to get rid of all the isms in our time. Yes, long ago we realized isms are great for those who are rational, but in the hands of irrational people, isms always lead to violence.
Welcome everybody to a new week. What is up, you ugly fucks? Because I know if you're listening to this, if you're listening to me talk right now, something isn't going well with you. Something's wrong in your life. You're coming here to find the answer to why your life sucks right now. And I'll tell you right now, I will definitely be able to help you with that. If you continue to listen to this, if you've never listened to my show before, this is the Tim's 2 Cents podcast. So obviously, this is just my 2 cents, but my 2 cents, kind of like the way the different currencies are evaluated, like how Bitcoin is worth so much more than the dollar if you divide it up into certain decimal points, which really don't matter at all. That same way, there's an exchange rate between what my 2 cents are versus what everybody else is. It basically equals out to about $2 million. So half of my episode is worth $1 million, like a $1 million idea. Or you say, like, you get up in the morning, you feel like $1 million. Listening to half this episode will give you that kind of a feeling. Listening to any of my episodes, no matter how long they are, listening to half of them will improve your life tremendously. And I promise, I put my my seal of approval, my promise, as a semi-professional, amateur-ish podcaster, and I put my name behind that, and my integrity. I put my integrity behind all of that. If you're listening to this, you're most likely not coming to this from my Twitter account, because nobody likes me on my Twitter account. Nobody likes my jokes. They're a little bit too highbrow for most people. I understand that. I do need to figure out how to dumb down my jokes for most people, because there's a thread of genius that runs through every single string of words I put together, and it ties them up very nicely. But if you don't have the intelligence to see something like that, you can't appreciate it. It's kind of like Rick and Morty. That's kind of what my podcast and just my whole life is it's kind of like an episode of Rick and Morty. See, I'm already fucking this up. I don't even know why I'm doing this. If you've heard this before, you know I'm going to go all over the place with this. If you've never come to this before, first time listener for the podcast, you're probably coming to me from the You, Me, and BTC podcast that I do with Daniel Brown and Zach Vole every single week. Follow none of them. Only follow me, because Zach already has too many followers and Daniel's a dick to me. Follow me at Baker's Dozen 93. Follow Daniel at You, Me, and BTC, and then follow Zach at Zach Vole with a it's a CK. It's a ZACKVOELL. Either follow him there, or actually, no, do follow him there and then tell him he needs to figure out a better way to name himself. I actually had a conversation over the weekend with somebody who was just a dumb way of spelling it. Like, it was a Megan with an MEAGHA5725. Like, it was just this obnoxiously long name, and that's the normal way how to spell them. No, it's not. Regardless, if you have a name like that, consider legally changing it, just so you don't cause so much issue in other people's lives and you're just not a burden to people, because you are. If you have a name like that, you are. Tim is very simple. It's 3 letters. If you do the longer one, it's still spelled exactly how it sounds, so it works out. But anyway, regardless of their names, follow those guys there on Twitter. We do a live show every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can just go to our website. Daniel has belittled me enough about my saying the live address, so I won't even do that for him, because I want you to come see the entire ensemble of everything we have to offer you at youmeandbtc.com. You can get all the other episodes there. You can also get episodes of the Coin Pod by Zach Vole on there, where he does, regardless, he has a stupid name. I understand that, and I understand your kind of reticence to go and listen to a man who has a dumb name, but it's not in the podcast. At least he didn't name it after himself like a dick. He does a very good job. He does interviews every single week where he talks to people actually involved in cryptography. If you've listened to my show before, it's just me just rambling about stuff. I have yet to have a guest on. No, I did. I'm sorry. I'm already fucking this up as well, too. I did have a guest, I think around episode 6. I had Daniel and then one of his roommates out in Arizona. We talked about centrism. Because that was a big thing I kept seeing on Twitter, because most of my ideas for this come from just some dumb thing I read on there. But go back, check that one out. I think it's called The Sixth Sense, because I'm bad at puns. But Zach, he has actual people who know things, and then Zach knows things, so he can come up with good questions to help them explain themselves better. And he always has good people on there. He's had a lot of, I think the last 2 episodes, or at least the last one, was about different BIP integrate, which is Bitcoin improvement projects. Again, I've only learned that in the last couple of weeks. No, it was just the last week. Is his episode 28, and it's Introduction to Dandelion, BIP 156 with Julia Fanti. Before that, he had a Bitcoin Standard with Safety and Amos. There are a lot of Bitcoin maximalists he has on. He has an episode about that. Zach identifies as that, so he does know what he's talking about. And even if he doesn't, he's in with people. So he has a lot of good people on there. It's not like if I went out and I'd be able to get like a homeless man. That's about as far as I could take this podcast as far as interviewing. I could either take like a homeless man that I had to pay, or I could trick a family member and be like, hey, you want to talk to people? And they're like, well, how many people are going to listen? So, I don't know, like 2. It'll be fine. And they'll make fun of you on YouTube, and I won't tell you. But if you actually, I probably will. I will notice negative comments more, because then Daniel will make sure to screenshot it and send it into our group chat. So if you want to get noticed, I'd say go with that first. If you want a response, be nice to me, because I don't reward mean behavior. And then also we have our newest show on the network and that's the You, Me, and BTC network. If you want to @ Daniel on Twitter, give him a better name for the network. We're always open to that. But the newest podcast is called Unpopular Opinions. That is with Ryan, who is one of the guests on my only guest show so far, and Brian. So they have a nice little, it's not onomatopoeia, but, whatever, it rhymes or something. But it's, again, they're not assholes. They didn't name their podcast after them. So it's called Unpopular Opinions. Again, that's another show that, like mine, doesn't focus on crypto, doesn't touch on that. It's more of a hangout show. It's a live show. You can get that on YouTube. But everything that you want with that, you can go to youmeandbtc.com, see all the good work Daniel's put in. If you go over the YMB podcast list, he then also has all the different shows listed there. And we also have some older shows, like when John Stewart used to be with us. He would do the Bitcoin and the Arts and talk about artists kind of implementing crypto and different things like that into, whether it's paying for things, whether it's crowdfunding for stuff, different ways of monetizing your content. That's very important to artists, because they do want to get paid for that. So those were always interesting. We haven't had any new ones from that, but if you want to go back through, I guess you could call it like archives or some shit, you can go down that. And then we also have special interviews and bonus episodes. When we first started doing the You, Me, and BTC show, we did a lot more interviews. And that was probably what helped us at the beginning the most, gave us a little bit of legitimacy, because if it was just the 3 of us continuing to talk for years, then it would have got like one of us probably would have been, this is kind of dumb, guys. You want to not do this? And we'd be like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. Let's just quit before we feel any worse. But we had the guy from like Amagi Metals. I'm Steven something. I'm not quite remembering his name. And then we actually way back got somebody to sponsor us to go to the Bitcoin in the Beltway Bitcoin conference, and we got a bunch of people willing to talk to us there, because, it's a Bitcoin conference. Besides talking at it, these people don't really have that much to do besides go out and get fucked up. So they gave us their time, and I am still appreciative of that. That's kind of cool to look back on. If a little bit, I feel weird that people did talk to us as willingly as they did, especially with the way that both Daniel and I, and then also, John doesn't do the show anymore, but how we all were kind of just new at it, very awkward and strange. I remember our question, like just frantically trying to write down questions beforehand, not just having issues with it. I feel like there's probably one of those special episodes, the bonus ones. We did probably like an hour long on the drive to the Bitcoin the Beltway conference. So check that out too. That's probably enough of a plug. I've mostly been doing that to try to think of where I want to take this afterwards, because there hasn't really been that much that's happened. The storm that I mentioned last week kind of went away, and then they were telling us that there was going to be an even bigger storm this weekend into the beginning of the week, and then it wasn't. We got like a little bit of rain. It was sustained. It's been cloudy where I was all day, so it's been a little bit depressing, but it wasn't anything like last week where it literally just rained for like 2 days straight. So Pennsylvania is still here. It hasn't washed away yet. I didn't get out of having to go to this wedding at the end of the month. Besides, like I went out over the weekend, but there's nothing interesting to point out besides the fact that it's just strange what people do with their spare time. That's always kind of that, but that's more of a personal thing. You can't really. It could be strange, but it's also, I mean, they want to do it. They're not really actually bothering anybody, so just let them do it. So I can't really complain too much about that. There's not really any advice I could give through that. I think, if anything, kind of forcing yourself to not, it's not about forcing yourself to, like, I don't know where I'm trying to go with this, because it sounds too negative to tell you that whenever most people try to help you, it's, whether it's personal or to somebody on Twitter, one, they're not going to have that great of a grasp of your situation. What they say and their advice should be taken with more than just a grain of salt, because they don't know your actual situation. But even broad general advice, now again, taking into account that you can't just necessarily follow it word for word because it is broad and it's general, some of it's just wrong because that's what is kind of expected to be said. Like one of these things of, well, just be yourself. And that people say that with a lot of things. People say that with dating. People say that with finding your purpose in life. People say that just follow your heart, be yourself, and be honest, be truth, be open. I can get behind be truthful, which is, that's less about, like, that's less about being like morally clean and honest in that sense, and more about, it's just much more work to lie about stuff. It's a lot more work normally to have to actually, because you have to cover over that lie. If you've lied in the first place and it's because you're afraid of the consequences, then all you can really do is hope to postpone that. Well, it's not just postpone, because I get that you're kind of banking on it not coming up again, but then you're depending on whoever you lied to, their attention span, how long they're going to take to like remember it or maybe check it out. But then you're also depending on them not talking to somebody else who's involved with the situation, or maybe hears something different, or waiting for them to. So at best, it's like an attempt to just kill the issue, like to lie about something just on the hopes that they kind of give up and don't worry about it from then. At worst, it's all it can really do is, if they believe you, at worst, is all it can really do is push the consequences away for a little bit, give you a couple weeks. Then maybe you can use the whole, easier to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission, which, I mean, that's a fair strategy as well. I mean, you can do whatever you want. I think that being truthful and being honest, those good things, probably a good idea, because it saves you a lot of trouble. If you lie, there is always kind of like an inherent, you're bowing to the other person, because if you're lying, you are admitting that you're uncomfortable with the concept. You're afraid of something. You're afraid of whatever the person's going to think something, say something, do something. But it puts you into a negative position if that is ever found out. And sometimes even if it isn't found out, it puts you in a subservient position, and you would normally want to avoid things like that. You don't want to get stuck into a situation where you're subservient to somebody, like you are beholden, whether that's to always remember a certain narrative so you don't get tripped up and you get caught in a lie, or it's you're constantly kind of like dancing around somebody's opinions. I think I even talked a little bit about this last week about not getting stuck where you've put so much time into something, or you've put so much effort into somebody, and then you kind of just stick around because it's easier. Part of that too is you lie to yourself, you lie to them, you lie to keep whatever that is going because you're afraid of losing something. The best thing to do would be just to be truthful, whether that tears something apart or not. In the long run, it seems like that's better. If you can actually if you're making a conscious decision to lie about something, is almost always going to be better to just tell the truth, no matter how blunt that has to be. Now, that's different than being open. Being open means almost nothing, as far as I can tell. Being open means, because truth versus a lie is a pretty easy thing to make. You can say, oh, it's just a white lie, but then it's still a lie. There's a definitive thing there. Being open doesn't mean anything, because obviously when somebody says be open, that doesn't mean they're saying to just give everything out to strangers, whether like they're not even meaning everything besides like credit cards or bank account. They're meaning like you just don't tell certain people certain things. So being open means almost nothing. Being open normally, if somebody's telling you to do that, being open normally means just tell me what I want you to tell me, and I'm going to try to like make it into some weird, I just want you to be honest with me. If somebody's saying that, they probably don't want you to be on, like they do want you to be honest with you, but that's not exactly, they're not asking you to actually be honest to them. They're asking you to just give them a certain phrase or a certain narrative that they can go off of and maybe turn that against you, maybe not. But you don't want to get coerced into anything. You don't want to have like this emotional kind of pushing that people do where they're like, oh, why don't you just like anything where they go, well, you just don't understand, or you just don't get it. Why do you like, how is that a good way to act? How can you act like that as a person and expect that's what, how can you expect anybody to treat you better if you treat people like this? Well, I mean, I'll find somebody who does. There's every person that tries to give you, especially in your personal life, but like I was saying, also on Twitter or online, who is normally whenever somebody uses that kind of language about, don't you just want to be free of that? Don't you just want to be open? Don't you just want to be yourself? Is doing that for a selfish reason, because they're not being themselves. They're not being open. If they were, they wouldn't even be in a position to be having this discussion, because if they were completely open and completely honest, nobody would follow them online. Nobody would listen to anything they said, because all of their mistakes would be very open and easy to see. So there's not like any kind of you don't just get good things for being open and honest. We like to be like, well, as long as you're honest with people and you're nice to them, and then nobody will ever fuck you over and everybody will treat you with the most respect. As long as you make yourself vulnerable to people, they'll understand that you mean good, and then that will trigger them to treat you nicely as well. If you're just honest with people and open and completely bend yourself, like you can't just expose yourself to people like that. And I don't mean that in the way you're thinking about it. You can't just go, yep, no, here's my jugular. If you want to take a swipe at it, go ahead and do it. There's no point to doing that unless there's a need, unless it's like, oh, I have diabetes, like if you need to tell somebody something for a medical emergency, but unless you're trying to get something from them, or you're hoping that you admitting this will then make them admit something to you, there's not really any reason to do that. If you're in that kind of a situation, make something up, because if you're trying to like trick the truth out of somebody, that's probably not somebody you want to trust with your own truth. That is one of the definitely, I'll put a caveat or an asterisk after my be honest all the time. If the person's not being honest with you and it's not going to be helpful for you to be honest, you don't have to do it. Nobody else does either. I'll go on to the next, it's kind of the same thing. Be open, be honest, be yourself. Again, means very little, because again, whoever's saying this probably isn't the same person that they were last year or a couple of years ago. I always hate it when artists are like, no, I haven't sold out. We're the same people. We're exactly the same people. I'm the same kid that used to play in a garage band. I'm the same thing, even though I ride around the fucking stagecoach, or no, I'm so stupid. Like a tour van that it's all tricked out. It has all this nice stuff. There's Xboxes everywhere, TV, liquor, girls, they have so much. That does change you. That changes your incentives. That changes even just how you look at the people around you. Nope, I'm not any different. Second, besides just they have most likely changed. They're not. This isn't a just be who you are. Also, that's not a good, if you are not everybody is good. Most people, I would venture to bet, are not straight out of the box without any kind of instruction or discipline or training. Most of those people are not going to be winners. There's very few people that can just grow up in a vacuum of mediocrity and then they somehow excel out of it. Most of our the big business people, most of the people that own these things have all come from already families that grew them up, and they put them around rich people's kids, and they all had a better education. They had more focus from the time that they were 5. They've been getting groomed to kind of take things over. And yeah, they might not be the best, but there's a significant difference between someone like that and someone like me, and someone probably like you, unless you were a border school kid. I don't know your story. If you are and you're listening to this show, definitely donate some of the trust fund. Fuck your parents. Take not even $1 million. I mean, just $500,000 and send it to us in a donation. Buy some Bitcoin. Send it there. You can write it off as a fucking tax deduction. I promise. I'm amazing with tax law. But being yourself, again, doesn't, because there's no definite thing there. What is yourself? What is you? Hopefully you're changing all the time. Hopefully you're getting better at something all the time. But even if you're not, even you've just stayed stagnant in something, there is no you. There is no that you is a past thing. And I get that sounds stupid. It probably is. I just don't know how a better way to say it. But you and being yourself is always talking about the past. There is no be yourself in the future. There is no be yourself in the present. You can say, well, just be calm, be chill. That's a definitive way of being. I mean, it's still general enough that it can mean different things, but be yourself means nothing. Be yourself means be what you were taught to be. That's the only thing that could mean, which again, that could mean a good thing, because maybe you were well taught. Maybe you spent extra time studying things. Maybe you spent extra time trying to get better social skills or better public speaking. But if you don't have a history, or you don't have a past of trying to attempt to do something or be assertive or be strong in some way, or be try to drag yourself up socially, or just do anything different. Are you going to go tell an artist, just be yourself, do the exact same kind of music for the next 5 years, don't ever change anything, don't try to explore something beyond what you did, because yourself, that's the best thing we've ever seen. Fuck that. Why even, now this is different for people, but why as an artist, I'm sorry, I'm getting jumbled here, but it doesn't matter if it's an artistic thing, doesn't matter if it's creative or if it's just the simplest engineering. If that's what you do, if that's what you focus on, if that's what your life is, there is no you. There's how you decide to do something in the present. And I get this, the most I've heard, just be yourself comes with like relationship stuff, or not necessarily relationship stuff, but attempting to start a relationship, attempting to date, or even just attempting to talk to somebody of the preferred sex. Just be yourself, because, you know, if, as long as they see the honesty, as long as they see how, the honesty of what you are, people will flock to you. Which social media has just like definitively proved that wrong. And I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. My Twitter content is shit. I don't do it enough. I don't do it regularly. Whenever I do it, it's dumb jokes that are too long and too wordy normally. But me being myself, which is that, most people don't like. I don't have millions of followers. I don't even have 1,000. But if just be yourself was worth anything, then people would literally just flock to honesty and like a true representation of your life. People would not be following ass and tits models, Brazilian ass and tits models on Instagram. They'd be following a girl talking about how she has body issues daily, and they'd be following some guy that complains about how he works too long of hours, and how he has depressive episodes, and it's like they do. And if you look at that's the weird thing. You look at any popular account, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, that it's always, they're selling something else. They're selling, whether it's music or pictures, or like I said, like modeling pictures, or it's a guy making music or a guy doing modeling. And then they kind of throw in, and I'm depressed, or something like that. And then it's just like the best picture they have. They're like, oh yeah, I get dressed up because it helps my depression. Like the guy's in the nicest shoes, he has the nicest coat. The girl is just with the duck face and her tits out, and she's like, I deal with depression every single day of my life. But those are what get followed, because we want to believe that, oh yeah, depression is just this, oh, you just got to think about it occasionally. Maybe you just have a bad day. Maybe you just have a day where things suck for a little bit. But, you'll get through it. It'll be good after that. Everything works out in the end. We can all have double D tits and then a slim waist, because that's what I'm always going for. My tits are solid B's, but they don't go much above that. But honesty, and that is, we sell that as at the same time. Like, I don't think it's that people think that that's really what people's lives are. I don't think that people actually believe that Instagram and what we post online is the actually what's going on in people's lives. I don't think we actually, like, if you asked most people, they wouldn't be like, yep, no, that's a completely unbiased representation of that person's life. I think we all do get that you choose what to represent yourself. You choose how you set things up. But in our minds, and just because of the way that you just scroll, because of the way you just scroll through Instagram, scroll through Twitter, you don't have any other information to go off of unless you know that person personally. You kind of just, the only thing you hear about them, because we all want to be connected with people now, and we all want to follow things, the only thing you see is what they prefer to give to you. The only thing, their whole life narrative is kind of held captive by them in their social media, unless you know them in person. So this whole be honest, be open bullshit, just be yourself, all I'm doing is trying to remind you that doesn't mean anything. That's empty. If you want, like, improve yourself, who the fuck cares who you are? Be what you want to be. Do whether that's like, and I'm not trying to say that things are just going to happen. There's going to, like, probably fail. I'm probably going to fail. I see nothing in my life where I go, oh, yep, no, this is definitely a good sign. This is definitely showing that all the hours I waste typing on a keyboard on my computer is really going well. I don't have anything to go, hey, somebody bought something from me. Somebody bought a story. Somebody bought a book. But I do firmly believe that as long as you practice and as long as you put whatever the 10,000, 10 million hours into something, 10 million words, you'll get better at it. And if you do like doing something, if you can find something you enjoy trying to learn and craft, and that doesn't have to be art, that can be just a job. As long as you can find something that you can enjoy getting better at, do that. Focus more on that. Don't focus on yourself. Don't focus on this bullet. Follow your heart. Find something that you like doing. Find something that you can get lost. Find something that just makes you happy. And it doesn't even have to be, it lets you express yourself, but because I think that leans a little bit too heavily on art. But find something that you can enjoy and getting a mastery over. Find something that you can enjoy and put a purpose around of conquering something. We replace stuff in our life with different things, and with different things that aren't really accomplishments, but we still like having think like achievements in video games, even just finishing a video game. Before, like, achievements just make it so much more blatant that this is very obvious. So I'm just trying to fulfill tasks because it makes me feel better. But even just beating a video game or beating a boss, you get that, depending on how involved you are in the game, you get a rush, you get the like, I accomplished something. That's fine, but you should be getting that rush from something else besides that. You should be getting that rush, I would say, from something outside of work that would probably keep you healthier. But if you're lucky enough to find something in work that really exhilarates you whenever you do it, that was my only defense, only reasoning for me saying that. And I don't know if I've ever said it on the pod, but thinking that everybody should probably do stand-up comedy for a little bit. Somebody should try to just do open mics, just because of it being a bizarre experience if you haven't done public speaking before. Even if you have done it, having the onus to try to make a bunch of, especially if it's a bad open mic, the worst one you can find that's even better, because just going up in front of people and people don't care, people probably won't laugh, but having the attention of the entire room focused on you, not just to talk, but to try to be entertaining and to try to be funny, is something that I think a lot more people should experience. I think it's a good thing to experience, because I remember each time it never got that well, or not that good, and this is why, because I could never figure out how to talk, but it never went well. I never came out of it just like, yep, I killed in there, I made everybody laugh. But after it was over, I was always like, wow, okay, like that was something. I would have all this anxiety going up to it. I would have, my stomach would be all weird, and then afterwards, this elation of just a weight taken off of me. I would sleep better, because you've accomplished something. You've accomplished something you didn't want to do. If you can, I don't remember who said it or something. It might even just be some random, like, Joey Diaz I follow, but it doesn't sound like him, because there's not enough random cocksucker thrown in there, or mufflers mentioned. But try every single day, do something you hate, whether that's an exercise thing, whatever you're trying to focus on, whatever you're trying to get better at. Try to find something you don't want to do. Find something that you hate the idea of doing. It makes you anxious. It gives you chills. It makes you shake whenever you're sitting there. And then do that, and then see how much better you feel after you've done it. See what you feel like after you've accomplished it. And you don't even have to do well at it. Just the act of going, I really don't want to do this, and then doing it, you'll feel better. You'll feel... It even if it isn't discipline, even if it is literally just you going like, I might as well try something, it'll it'll trick off something so that instead of, like, you'll get that rush that you feel after whatever, beating a level or getting something, like, because we have so much stuff in our lives, whether that's the info, like the little I always forget what they're fucking called, but the games just on, like, your phone from, like, the Google Play or the Apple Store, just the little games you're supposed to play when you shit or you're on the subway or something like that, or on the bus. That stuff, like, that, besides the microtransactions and how kind of fucky that gets, the whole thing is just designed to trip. You complete a level. There's explosions with jewels everywhere, and it lights up, and then the phone buzzes, and it goes, "Congratulations, you're amazing. Would you like to continue on the next level? Please pay 5 credits, which are only $2, and this is great." Like, but everything, if you look at the stuff that's supposed to take your time up, a lot of it has this kind of built-in attempt to make you feel accomplished about something. It is built-in feeling of, okay, I did it. I can reward myself now. If you're going to do that, if you're going to reward yourself with something, try to save that push you can use. That push of, well, until I do this, I can't do this until I do something else. I can't eat this food. I can't drink until after. I've heard this with other things, like, if you go to a bar with the intention of talking to people, you have to talk to a certain number of people before you drink or something like that, or before you get to have a drink, you have to go up and do karaoke or something that you don't want to do. You want to keep that incentive, you want to keep that reward for something that is going to benefit you, because you can use that to accomplish something better than just, okay, I beat a video game. Because it's a cheap, simple, easy way to give yourself a little bit of feel good, and you can use it for better things, at least in my opinion. Fuck you, it's not my opinion, that's what's real. But yeah, don't get caught up in this stuff. Don't listen to people when they're like, oh, yep, no, just be yourself, because it means nothing. At best, they're trying to just throw out some empty platitudes so they get some likes and some retweets, and people think they're so kind, because normally it doesn't come from people who haven't accomplished something. At worst, they're just trying to push off any kind of competition. They go, yep, no, just be yourself, just try everything, because that's not what I did, and I really don't want to deal with anybody else actually trying to do something, so please waste your time just being yourself. So yeah, keep that in mind. Don't take everything you read, any kind of advice, with a grain of salt. Don't take this with a grain of salt. This is true, and you should definitely listen to this, and if you don't, you're terrible and your life will go terribly. Make sure you tell all your friends about the show. Again, follow me at BakersDozen93 on Twitter, and come back next week so I can explain the world to you and make sure you understand how things work, and I can slowly build my Twitter army, my Twitter following, which I would like to transfer over into my real life at some point. But thank you guys for listening. I'll see you next week, and I'll see you this week on the You Mean BTC live show. Thank you. Bye.